Hello there. Thanks for watching or listening to VIP Boxing's Bell to Bell podcast. We're on episode 163. You're either watching on YouTube, listening on iTunes or Spotify. Thanks very much for that. Write some nice stuff about us if you want, or even bad stuff. We don't care. We're not that proud here. You know me, Steve Lillis, and as always, my co-host in the top corner there, John Evans. Tonight's guest, a man making his Bell to Bell debut, one of VIP Boxing's brightest hopes. It's welterweight Ashley MARRON. How are you, Ashley?
Yeah, good, Steve. All good in the hood. Everything's going well. How about you?
I'm all right, mate. I'm okay. I think John's all right there. If he hasn't come off his motorbike again, but you know,
I hope not.
You're 6-0 and looking to improve on that in Bolton against Billam-Smith. You know, someone who's not a journeyman that's going to come and definitely try to win.
Yeah, definitely. That's it's good to have that step up so early on. Obviously, I've had some good tests in my previous fights. Some really good away fighters who, some of them probably a bit bigger than me as well. And I've got through them with flying colours. So it's good to have somebody who's got some ambition. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Training's gone well, and I can't wait to put on a show.
Yeah, just before you joined us, John and myself were talking about you and your weight. Can you get down to welterweight comfortably? Because you are big at that weight already, aren't you? Or are you going to grow into a super welterweight?
I'll probably grow into a super welterweight, I think. But I mean, at the minute, with where I'm knocking around at when I'm walking around, it's probably the right idea for me to do welterweight at this stage. But like I say, if I grow a bit into the weight, then I don't mind doing super welter. I spar a lot of super welterweights, top fighters, and I feel good in there. But I think at this point, probably welterweight is where I'm at.
Ash, this has been for young lads coming through, starting out a career like you, this has been pretty much perfect, hasn't it? You've been out every 3 months since you turned pro. Have you noticed a difference of being able to roll from training camp to training camp without having big breaks? Because you must have been pretty much in the gym for 15 months now, 18 months.
Yeah, that's it. Well, to be honest, it doesn't really take me long to get, fighting fit. A few weeks of hard graft, and I'm like kind of getting sharp. It's more Jamie and John trying to keep me, tame me down a bit, stop me from kind of overdoing it. But no, listen, I've enjoyed it. I like being active. It's good they say, don't they, an active fighter is a dangerous fighter. And it's like when you look at the old school fighters from back in the day, they were fighting every other month. I think Sugar Ray Robinson fought 5 times in 4 weeks once. Yeah. So, if those guys can do it, why can't we? That's what I think.
Well, it's the same these days, isn't it? The good guys are never out of shape. You never see Crawford 2 stone overweight. You never saw Floyd 2 stone overweight.
That's it. And I think as well, a lot of, when you see a fighter probably not live up to the potential, I think a lot of it is down to inactivity. But listen, I've got the right management team around me who are helping me, and, got good supporters coming out, buying tickets and helping me get on these shows. So it's good. I'm enjoying it. I like being active, and it's good to keep myself busy as well.
You had a bit of you boxed quite a few amateurs. You had a good amateur career. Quite a while you boxed amateur, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I had a few years off boxing for a bit of it. So like my late teens, I wasn't boxing, and then I come back into it about 21, and then just picked up where I left off really, with Borsha and John Cage, Jamie Carr, and listen, it's gone great. But
Sorry.
Sorry.
No, go on, carry on.
No, I had about 45 amateur fights in total. So, yeah.
Now, just remember just before you turned over, I remember John saying to me he was going to speak to Steve about you, because he had you in the gym, and you was always about going professional with you. I'm not sure he meant you never had the desire to go for ABAs and win majors and go to GB squads. It was always about being a pro.
Yeah, I think always probably my style suits professional boxing. Even though, I like to counter punch and things like that, I think it's more suited to the longer rounds and that kind of style. But no, listen, I went in the ABAs. I did well. I went in the ABAs and I fought the best kid in the country and had a close fight with him. He was on GB, and had a really close fight. It could have gone either way. It was one of them. But I just thought after that, you know, what's the point in waiting around? Let's just get moving and turn pro.
Brilliant. Well, so we'll get moving on with the pod. Now, I don't know if you know the format there, Ash. John rings a bell after 3 minutes, if you can hear it, after each round. Right. So we'll fire away because it's near my bedtime. Now, I'm usually in bed by 8:45 and it's 9:30 at night. I'm a bit of a, you know, bit of a miserable sod like that.
On the list these days.
Sorry?
Emmerdale, Coronation Street, EastEnders,
bedtime. I don't watch any of it, mate. I really have the telly on.
Lillis used to bed at 9:45 in the morning.
No, mate, I'm usually up at 6:30 in the morning. I've got all my running gear out for the morning. 7 o'clock down the running path here. Yeah. Or down the rail path here for me in the morning. While you're sleeping, Evans, I'll be already having my shower and my shave for the morning, mate. Having done my training session. Yeah, Ashton Mafia, yeah. Me and Casey, I've seen Casey occasionally when he does the odd run down the road here. Yeah, but anyway, we'll fire on. The Ashton Mafia will get us started. I think the Battersea Mafia sounds better.
The Battersea, yeah,
the South London Mafia. Well, I'm not going to get the starters. The older Mafia is going to get it started. Round 1, John. Jack Massey getting his rewards.
Chadder and Mafia, it's a big difference, Steve.
Okay, I apologise. Go on, Chaddy.
Yeah, Jack Massey, I'm really pleased for him on Saturday beating Isaac Chamberlain. I think a lot of us fancied him to do it. I know he got drafted in as late notice, but he'd had really good preparation and he's sparring with Lawrence Okoli and Alan Babich. So he was already fit when he got the call and he went into it confident as well. But a bit of perseverance there from Jack, you know, since he boxed with Akpor all them years ago. Yeah. He's not really had a break. No one's wanted to touch him. He had to go up to fight Parker to try and drum up some interest. Did well. Again, it just made him even easier to ignore though, didn't it? Doing well at heavyweight. But yeah, he got his chance. I think it was pretty much make or break. If he'd lost to Chamberlain, I don't know where he would have gone. But I thought he was great. He had to come through a couple of little and difficult bits, kept going and turned his career around there. You know, he's in the mix for massive fights now, Jack, and I was pleased for him. Yeah,
what's great about it, John, there's another one, you know, Ashley started on the small circuit. He was on that small circuit. I saw him at Victoria. Well, I think he boxed at Bolton a couple of times early in his career as well, where you're pretty much a house fighter. You know, look, as you say, John, you know, he was unlucky in that fight against Riak, or another one I think he took that at short notice, and that the patience has paid off. And let's see what happens now for him. Do you know him at all, Ash?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I remember. So when I was one of my first amateur clubs was Northside in Manchester, and obviously Jack Massey was there for years. So I remember him winning national titles and, you know, representing England and what have you. So yeah, and obviously turning professional, and you've seen him around for years. But obviously the weekend, that was his, like John said, there's his breakout fight, wasn't it? He got a make or break type of thing, and buzzing for him, just happy he's got the win. And like I say, the loser of that fight is going to be a hard roll back, and he got the win. So he's the opportunities and the doors are all open for him now, which is great. That's what you want.
Yeah, big title back European as well, isn't it? I think he gets overlooked, but it gives you a big high world ranking. It's a proper prestigious belt. You know,
yeah, for sure.
People seem to move on past it really quickly now. But yeah, he's really, really good. Does he? I know we're talking about Billam-Smith in a bit. Does Massey get in the mix for Billam-Smith now?
He's in the mix, but I think we'll talk about Billam-Smith and what will happen to him next. Now, so round 2 then, John, will go on to it. Falls quite nicely. Yeah, I just think Billam-Smith, obviously, Jack Massey's look, of course he's in line to fight, and it might be the sort of fight, you know, Boxer C for Manchester Arena or somewhere later in the year, or the new gaff down the road here at is it the Co-op Live? But you know what? I think Billam-Smith, he has his critics. We've always said on here, you know, I don't think he's got where he's got Billam-Smith through how he's living that life. Sort of guy, Billam-Smith, who has a Mars bar at Christmas. You know, he's an inspiration to fighters. And you know what? I'm not saying he'll beat Jai Apataya, but you know what? Why doesn't he deserve that? I think he deserves that chance now. And of course, we'd love to see the Massey fight. But if he got that big unification against the Australian, he deserves that. You know, he's come through, Rackport, the Masternak fight, where he was up against it and turned it around. Big fan of he's just for how he's handled himself in his career. Everyone speaks so well of him, and I just think he deserves to go on to that next level now and to give it a go. Ash?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. I think domestically he's kind of cleaned up. I mean, he's a world champion now, and he's defended his belt with someone in a big domestic fight in their back garden. So yeah, like you say, why not fight Jay Opetaia? That's a big opportunity for him. And yeah, I think you know what, he can make it messy, but he's a tidy boxer, isn't he? And he's got a bit of everything. Like, he can stick behind his jab, and he can make it a bit messy, and he can rough him up a little bit. He's a good fighter, but you'd like to see him against Jay Opetaia, because he's a big fella, Billam-Smith.
Yeah.
Bit of a bulldozer, isn't he? So it'd be good to see that fight. But yeah, interesting.
I thought he made that pretty easy on Saturday, weirdly, against Riyadh Boy. For Billam-Smith's style of fighting, that's probably the easiest night's work he'll have at world title level. He barely took anything, did he? Do you know what? I'd love to see him get Opetaia, and maybe about a year ago you would have thought Opetaia would have blasted him, but I think he'd make it a difficult night's work for him. You've still got to back Opetaia, haven't you? Because I think he's a bit special, but Billam-Smith won't make it easy. He'd have to work for his openings, Opetaia.
Yeah, and just something there that Ash said about, he's proved himself in Britain. Now, if Boxer turned around and said to him, well, you've got to fight Jack Massey next, he might say, look, we're not another British fighter. I want the kick on. But what you was alluding to there, Ashley, I think you were spot on there, Ash.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's like Jack Massey as well. He deserves that fight. He deserves a big fight. But Billam-Smith, he's beat Chamberlain. He's beat Riakporhe. He's fought Lawrence Okoli, when probably a lot of people thought he was going to get beat. So he does deserve to move on now, I reckon, and have that one big shot at glory against someone like Jay Opetaia. Be a good fight.
Brilliant. Round 3. I knew John will like this subject. I know your first topic, Ashley. You want to talk about the Four Kings? Oh
yeah, it's the best. It's the best boxing subject you could probably speak about, isn't it?
Yeah,
the Four Kings.
Who was your favourite?
Yeah, I love Leonard. I think Leonard was my favourite, but the debate is who's in order. Top, second, third, and fourth. That's the big debate. But I'm interested to see what you guys think.
You know what? You know who I love more than any of them? And I was about 19 and I cried. It was middle of the week, and I went. Was Thomas Hearns. I loved him. I love it. After Holyfield, he's up there as my favourite. And the night he lost to Leonard, I think it was September. Leonard beat him in the first fight, September 1981. I think it was a Tuesday or Wednesday night. And I went to watch it at the cinema, middle of the night, at Odeon, Leicester Square. And you know what? I left there absolutely devastated. I'm more gutted than when Fulham lose a big football match when that night. I loved Hearns. I know, look, he maybe weren't. I'll go on how I loved them as. Oh God, I'm going to speak on how I loved them from the heart, and I'm going to go Hearns, Hagler, Leonard, Duran. I'm not saying that's the order they are. That's the order I love them in. John.
Right. Well, firstly, that fight, Leonard Hagler, I think that's the best fight ever. Leonard Hearns won.
Yeah,
I do. That's my favourite fight of all time. Yeah, I think that's the best fight ever.
I do. So many twists and turns, and they both have to do different things.
You see it in the 13th round. He suddenly turns the fight around. Yeah.
The boxer becomes the puncher. The puncher becomes the boxer.
That's what I love about it.
Yeah. Duran's the best. Duran was a Hall of Famer before he even went up to welterweight. And Duran beating Leonard is the greatest win in boxing history.
Yeah.
But jumping up 12 pounds and beating Leonard was the best. Plus, as well, I knocked on his door in Panama, Duran. I was in Panama City. I was bored. I knocked on his door. We went out on the piss with him for about 12 hours, left him singing karaoke, and he's exactly what you want, Duran.
I didn't know that. You knocked on his door.
Got a taxi driver to... I could give you directions to Duran's house. Yeah, got a taxi driver to drop me at the end of the road, knocked on his door out of blue, and ended up out and about with him and his mum. Yeah.
That is amazing. Yeah, do you know what?
Sensational fighter.
Yeah, Roberto Duran. That debate on the Four Kings there. It's like what I like to say is for me, Leonard's the best because he beat them all. And I think when he boxed Duran, even though that was the best win in boxing history, it was because he moved up 2 weights. I think when he stuck to his boxing in the second fight, he beat him easy. And I think Duran, when you talk about pound for pound greatest out of them four, I think Duran is the greatest because, like you say, he was a 70s fighter.
Yeah.
So he made his name in the 70s, undisputed lightweight, never lost at the championship, and then moved up 2 weights and then fought all the other guys at super welter and middle and super middle. So I think he's the pound for pound. But I think for me, I'd say Leonard, Hearns, Hagler, Duran in terms of them four. I'd say. Yeah. But pound for pound, I'd say Duran because he's just a legend, isn't he?
Yeah.
I remember 89, and I just started at the Daily Sport when Duran comes to London, and him and Nigel Benn had that spar.
Oh, did you see that? Yeah.
Yeah, I was there.
No way.
Ambrose Mendy invited all about 90, well, I can't remember the exact year. I was at the Daily Sport at the time in London. And Ambrose Mendy invited. Yeah, one of the very lucky things. I've been to a lot of lucky things in boxing, as I always say on here.
He was toying.
And they took, I think, Frank Maloney, Kelly Maloney took him out. They were taking him out, Eugene Maloney, and he could just drink for hours and hours and hours. But he didn't outlast John Evans. He only lasted 12 hours with John Evans.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, the thing is, John Evans didn't leave for about 5 days, I bet.
Yes. I could tell you the restaurant. I could tell you how to get to his house. I remember it, but I best not say it just in case anyone goes to Panama and knocks off. Yeah, he's exactly perfect.
That's a wonderful anecdote, John. Wonderful.
He was ringing people up on my phone. He speaks better English. So I knew a couple of Scottish people, and he was ringing them up, and he was saying, I've got Ken Buchanan's balls and stuff like that down my phone to people I knew.
Oh, wow. I tell you what, that's brilliant, John. Round 4, from the Four Kings to Crocker v Walker this weekend in Birmingham. John, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, right. This is going to be fight of the year. No question about it. It can't not be. Neither of them have got anything else in the game where one of them is going to get on the back foot. Conah Walker is going to walk straight to Lewis Crocker and try and wear him down and take him out. And Lewis Crocker is going to walk straight to Conah Walker and try and knock him out with a left hook. They've both got good chins. They've both got a bit of spite and a bit of edge to them. Fight week will pick up. By the first bell, they're both going to want to kill each other. And neither of them have got any other way about going about this than walking straight to each other. So this is going to be fireworks. It's going to be fight of the year. I can't wait for it.
You know what? I'm just glad Lewis Crocker's got to this. I remember him making his debut. 2017, 2018 in Belfast, Waterfront Hall. And it was on a Box Nation show. And the buzz about him that night in Ireland, in Belfast, there was a buzz about what this Irish guy was going to do. And it's taken him 7 years. But you know what? I fancy Crocker quite big, I'll be honest with you, John, in this. Conah Walker will tell me off if he listens to this when I see him, because I always have a good chat to Conah. But I've got to say, I do fancy Crocker to win well. But you know what? How well has Walker bounced back from losing to Kane Gardner, who's boxing in a great fight next week against Jamie Robinson in Bolton on VIP shows? How do you see it, Ashley?
I think it's closer to what people think, me personally. Obviously, Crocker's the big favourite. But I think Walker, because I think when he boxed Kane Gardner, am I right in saying it was that light welter?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
And I think when he boxed Patterson at welter, I think he was a different fighter. And like Patterson can fight, and he's a sharp puncher as well. And it just looked like he was just walking through him. And I think, Crocker's a hell of a puncher and a hell of a fighter. But I'm interested to see after 6 rounds, if they're both still in the middle of the ring trading, how it's going to go. Because he is one tough guy, Conah Walker, and I'm just excited. It's going to be a very good fight. I can't pick a winner. I don't know. It's going to be good. I mean, probably Yeah, I can't pick a winner. To me, it's closer than what people think, to be honest.
I spoke to Conor about this. Conor says, you won't believe how easy this is going to look. He said, I'll work him out within a round or two. I'll take him to school. I'll beat him. And none of you will believe how easy I make it look.
Yeah. Well, he made
we both know
look easy.
We've been sparring Crocker, don't we? And we say he genuinely punches ridiculously hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just remember the hype around him when he turned professional. And you think when I'm checking that today, as soon as I'm sure I've covered his second or third fight, it was actually his debut, and I was surprised it's taken him 7-8 years to get there.
Yeah, I'm going to pick the Croc. I think he's got that special something about him, but I think it's going to be a hell of a fight.
Yeah, I'm Crocker, and Ashley
Yeah,
sitting on the fence there.
No, do you know what? I think I'm going to go for Conah Walker. I think he might pull out the bag. I think he's going to do so. Do you know what? Nobody expected him to beat Patterson.
No.
And he made that look easy for me. So
and then he blasted out the Welsh champion, didn't he, in 3 rounds? Just blew him away.
Oh yeah, the guy with Chris Sanagar.
Yeah, Lloyd
Germain.
Lloyd Germain,
yeah.
I'm going for Walker, yeah.
Round 5, this Saudi boxing league. I just wondering if there could be any repercussions to the sport at the bottom end of the scale. I think it means, the smaller promoters might get hold of some talent, more talent than what they're getting right now. Because all these big pros are just going to, everyone they sign, they're just going to be looking for fighters who can jump straight into this league. Well, not jump straight in, but within a couple of years, be in Saudi, in this league, however it's going to work.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know much about the Saudi Boxing League. Is it where they're going to buy up all the promotions? So it's kind of one. Is that what it is, right?
Yeah, well, buy shares and put them under one umbrella.
Right. That's interesting because what would happen to the small old promotions? It's interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they'll be all right. I think it could benefit small boxing because people want to watch all the boxing because every fight's going to be evenly matched. And that's the sort of thing that makes people go to boxing. And guys that, good kids who usually get signed by a big promoter will have to sign with a smaller, or maybe we'll have to sign with smaller promoters and hope to get picked up that way. What do you think, John? What's your outlook?
I think small shows will do well out of it because people will drip down. But it's them, like I've been saying for about 6 months now, it's them medium shows that we need on Saturday nights on TV. If we're going to put, I believe we're doing 12 weight classes, 15 or 20 fighters in each weight class. Yeah. If all the top boys are in Saudi Arabia, then what's going to be on a Saturday night at the Co-op Arena or the MEN? And there's a big hole there. But I think the smaller guys, the smaller promoters will do well out of it.
Yeah. It was like do you know when Fury Usyk fought the other week? It's like all the build up to that, and then they had that fight, and I think was it Taylor Cattrall the week after?
Yeah.
It was like I had a big come down because I was looking forward to Cattrall and Taylor, and then because of the big build up in Saudi and everything, by the time it come to the fight, it was like I wasn't as riled up for it, because they've just been like spoilt for massive boxing shows one after the other.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because like I say, the small hall promotions will probably get more chances on TV, won't they?
Yeah, very much.
Probably makes it good.
You made a great point there again there, Ash. We were thinking the other week, we were saying on the pod here that Taylor and Cattrall gone underground. A lot of people, a lot written about it, spoken about, and a lot of it might have been because we'd had that Fury Usyk build up, and then the mad fight between them. That might be a reason. I don't think we come up with that one, John, did we? The other week when we were finding a reason.
What would you call it? Like just taking big fights for granted now, whereas it used to be few and far between, didn't it? Now every month, every week.
I was still recovering from Fury and Usyk. By the time the next Saturday come, I was thinking, wow, I can't believe Cattrall and Taylor are fighting tonight. It's mad.
Yeah.
But, crazy.
Just one question while we're touching on Saudi. As a young upcoming pro, I mean, you're still at the start of your career and there's a long, long way to go. Do you think to yourself, in the back of your mind, or subconsciously think, I want to get some of that Saudi dollar one day?
Of course, yeah. Listen, I want to just be on the best shows and the biggest shows I can be on. You know, however good I am, I want to get to that level. So yeah, if that means in Saudi earning the big boy money, give me some of that. Get me on, Steve.
And you'll call that guy His Excellency, won't you?
I've voice noted him 350 times, but he's not got back to me yet.
Oh, brilliant. Round 6, final round, a final 3 minutes or 4 minutes, whatever it stretches. So, Ash, you want to talk about boxing rivalries in Britain? You know, has it been a favourite for you?
Oh, there's been loads. I think, obviously, going back in the day, it's like you've got Eubank, Ben, them big rivalries, and then you've had like Khan, Brook, and then the biggest one for me that I remember when I was kind of growing up in boxing was Froch and Groves. That was like one of the biggest ones. And obviously you got fights as well that probably big rivalries that have not happened yet, like Fury and Joshua.
Yeah.
So those are massive fights that I've not kind of touched base. But yeah, some big ones, isn't there? Some good fights.
For me, even though the second fight was a disappointment, was that Ben Eubank rivalry.
Yeah.
I was just started, my career on national papers, and that first fight, the build-up, was being around that all week, and at the fight in Birmingham was just incredible. The subplots with even sabotaging Eubank's music and stuff like that. That rivalry, that was genuine nasty, and it never did. You know, though they were together, they did speak at times. That's a rivalry that was that they never made up. They had that thing about 12 years ago when they dressed as gladiators and nearly had a scream at a tear up. That's a rivalry that's
brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, brilliant. It's still simmering now. They still detest each other. Completely different personalities. You know, the rivalry that was a rivalry, but we never saw for real, which I'm gutted about, was Lewis and Bo. That would have been, that was the fight that we missed where there was a rivalry. And yeah, look, in my time in boxing domestically, Froch Groves is the only one that comes close to Eubank and Ben. Obviously, there's been other rivalries in the 80s that, you know, there was a lot of overtones in the Kayla Christie fight. That was a rivalry, but they just had that, you know, there was only that one contest. John,
before I say it, people should look that up on YouTube. Ben and Eubank training as gladiators.
Yeah, sick, isn't it? So funny.
It really does nearly kick off, doesn't it, as well?
Yeah,
that's proper.
But mine's Froch and Groves. I thought it was fantastic. It was real. I went to a press conference for her first one, and you could feel it. You could be
really,
yeah. There was a bit of jokiness to it because of how Groves was winding him up, but Froch hated him, really hated him. The atmosphere in the arena that night was sensational, and the fight was the best I've ever been at ringside for. It was just you could some atmospheres you can almost feel them, can't you? And Froch had that. That was real hatred. I think Froch sorted it out for the second fight, didn't he? He got to grips with it all.
Yeah.
But for 3 months before the first fight and 3 months after, that was nasty.
Yeah, it was.
It's bizarre how they've ended up getting on and doing this tour together, and you know they take the piss out of each other now. I mean, I think that's brilliant. Whereas the Eubank and Ben, the undercurrent's still there.
Yeah. Do you know what though? With these rivalries, the differences between some and others is that when it's the truth, when they actually don't like each other and they hate each other, it sounds different. You can definitely feel it. It's like Froch and Groves actually hated each other. Same with Eubank and Ben, and there's just a different element to the rivalry when it's like that. You know what I mean?
Genuinely think Taylor Catterall could have rivaled them all, but there was just too long a delay between the fights.
100%, yeah. It'd have been like within the first year, it'd have been massive.
Yeah. For both spiky characters, Jack keeps quiet, but he's serious, Jack, and Josh is Josh. Yeah,
but you must. I mean, as a fighter, you wanted to talk this subject, Ashley, when you said today. Are you someone who would love to have that rivalry one day in your career, where there's someone where you're going to have 2-3 fights where you don't care less if you make up after the third fight, that you're going to detest for the 4 years of rivalry, and you have 3 fights each with each other?
I'd love to have one of them rivalries for sure. I'd love to be involved in them big fights domestically as well. I think like I remember fights like Kevin Mitchell versus John Murray, fights like that. And I love them fights. Them like proper British showdowns. Like to me, I loved it. And I'd love to be involved in fights. To be honest with you, I'll be honest with you, Steve. I don't think I could I don't think I could detest anyone. But you know, I don't think it'd run that deep.
Just not met him yet.
But I probably that's it. I might not have met him yet, but no, listen, I want to be in them big rivalries, of course. I want to test myself against the best. So yeah, hopefully one day I'll meet my match. Someone I might with.
You know what I like, and I think it's an underrated thing. I'm not keen on all this. Look at, isn't it good to see him shaking hands afterwards and be friends? I think there's a lot to be said for two people who hold a grudge for the rest of their lives. Yes. I like that. No fake handshakes, no making up. Had a fight, still don't like you. We'll go our separate ways. I think there's something to be said for that.
Do you know what though? What I found is especially nowadays, you know, because of YouTube boxing and people have clocked on to that. If you run your mouth, people are gonna want to watch you and stuff. I think there's too much of it now, and you can see when it's genuine, when people are actually charismatic and you know they've got the chat, and you can also see when people are kind of faking it for the cameras. So like you see all these build-ups on TV sometimes, and you think these guys, they're just playing. It's not even a big rivalry. This, do you know what I mean? But I think there's definitely a big difference in it when it's real.
Which British fighter would you like to have seen in a rivalry? I would have loved Naz to have had a proper British rival.
Yeah, me too.
Seen a different side to Naz there. But Paul Ingle was, I suppose, the only one. And
Paul Ingle, there was that little bit undercurrent with him and Naz, but it was never
big. But imagine if Naz had a proper rival. Imagine
like a Barry McGuigan. Imagine that.
God.
Oh,
that'd have been a matchup, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Oh, John, you've thrown me.
Imagine how he would have reacted to it. Naz, he would have hated it.
Yeah. Well, it's like Patton and Junior Witter. They had a bit of a rivalry. Never happened, did it? So yeah, it's a shame. But Naz, that'd have been unbelievable. Imagine if he'd have had like his match.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'd have been crazy.
No, I mean Hat and Whittles. But to me, Lewis and Bowe was the big global one that got away.
Yeah.
You know, they had the Olympic rivalry, and just, you know, throwing the WBC belt in the bin. Yeah. It just never happened. And I think, imagine a fit Riddick Bowe. I think he would have been the greatest heavyweight of all time. But it's ifs and buts, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was some fighter though, wasn't he?
Oh, that first Holyfield
fights.
Oh, the first one's my favourite fight. You were talking of yours earlier. That's my favourite fight. Round 10 of that first fight. Something else.
Built like fighters back then. They're just even the big heavyweights. They just built different, weren't they? Different minds. Cut from a different cloth. Some of these guys. Yeah,
it was John's big subject. 80s and 90s heavyweights. We've got 1 minute 38 on the clock in my top corner here. John would speak for 1 hour 38 minutes on them 80s and 90s heavyweights, wouldn't you, John?
Well, maniacs, weren't they? I love them. I love an 80s heavyweight. Yeah.
Well, you should have been, John, for a week. You should have been a journalist in the 80s, John. And boxing scene should have sent you to those farms where Don King kept all these heavyweights living, and then brought them all out to fight each other.
I would have been happy doing that, and then going to like a fistful of dollars one night tournament with Maurice Harris and stuff like that. When Maurice Harris won it, they give him the briefcase with supposed to have $1 million in. He got back to the dressing room. He opened it. It was empty.
Yeah, I think Bunsey was there. I think Bunsey was at that one. He was at one of them mad tournaments anyway. Anyway, fellas, it's been brilliant having you on, Ash. We'll come and get you back on in a few months, and I'll see you next week in Bolton.
Yeah, definitely.
I hope Johnny K's don't drive you too mad the next week in the gym.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, start twitching next week. That's it. It's a bit funny.
John, thanks as always as well. But thank everyone for watching or listening, and we'll see you all with Bell to Bell episode 164 next week. Thanks very much.
For all boxing info, news, and latest interviews, amateur and pro, across the north, click and subscribe. VIP Boxing Promotions. Also, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.